What if a tiny patch of rock could drag two nations into a showdown? Because right now, the Philippines and China are facing off again, over one place, Scarborough Shoal. The Philippines and China are facing off again, this time over a tiny stretch of rock in the South China Sea that could shape the future of the region. The place is known by different names. The Philippines calls it Bajo de Masinloc, or Scarborough Shoal. China calls it Huangyan Dao. It sits about 120 nautical miles off the northwest coast of the Philippines, well within what Manila says is its exclusive economic zone. In simple terms, the Philippines says, "This is ours under international law." China says otherwise. Now here's where things heat up. In late 2025, Beijing announced plans to turn the waters and reefs around the shoal into a national nature reserve. China says it's about protecting coral reefs, fish stocks, and marine life. Sounds harmless, right? But the Philippines isn't buying it. Manila says this isn't just about the environment. Officials argue it's part of a bigger strategy, slowly tightening control over the area and changing the situation on the water. Philippine leaders didn't mince words. They called the plan a pretext, a step that could lead to a more permanent Chinese presence at the shoal. And they didn't stay quiet. The Philippine Foreign Ministry filed formal diplomatic protests and alerted other governments. They pointed to the 2016 ruling by the tribunal in The Hague, which said China's sweeping claims in the South China Sea don't match international law. China rejects that ruling completely. So now it's not just about reefs and fish. It's about sovereignty. It's about access. And it's about fishermen. Communities along Western Luzon have fished these waters for generations. Many are worried that if China tightens control under the banner of conservation, they could lose access to their livelihoods. Manila says real environmental protection should respect Philippine jurisdiction and protect local fishermen, not push them out. So what looks like a small patch of rock is actually a pressure point between two nations. Now here's what people on the ground are really worried about. Fishermen say if China steps up enforcement around Scarborough Shoal, it could mean tighter fishing limits in waters they've used for years. For many families along Western Luzon, that's not politics, that's survival. Philippine officials agree. They say if foreign vessels start imposing rules there, it hurts local communities and violates their rights. And this isn't new. For years, Chinese Coast Guard ships have stayed near the shoal. Manila says these vessels patrol the area regularly, sometimes escorting Chinese fishing boats, sometimes conducting surveillance. Philippine authorities describe some of these encounters as disruptive. Local fishermen report being blocked, shadowed, or pressured to leave. So the Philippines pushes back. The Philippine Coast Guard and armed forces run regular patrols in what Manila calls the West Philippine Sea. They fly surveillance missions. They hold maritime exercises. They send a clear message. We're here too. Officials insist these operations are routine and defensive, simply asserting their sovereign rights. But tensions flare at sea. Philippine spokespersons have accused Chinese vessels of dangerous maneuvers, getting too close, risking collisions. Beijing denies that. China says its patrols are legal and necessary to protect its own fishermen and historic claims. Chinese officials frame their actions as safety enforcement and environmental protection. So both sides say they're defending what's theirs. And now the diplomatic tone is getting sharper. After a heated exchange of public statements, Philippine Foreign Ministry officials urged China to keep things calm and professional. The tension rose further when the Philippine Senate passed a resolution condemning remarks from China's diplomatic mission in Manila. That mission had criticized Philippine leaders for defending their maritime claims, comments lawmakers called offensive. So this dispute isn't just playing out on the water anymore. It's unfolding in patrol routes, press conferences, and parliament halls. And with every sharper statement, the temperature rises, not just between two governments, but for the people whose lives depend on those waters. China didn't back down. After the Philippine Senate condemned its remarks, China's diplomatic mission in Manila brushed it off. Beijing doubled down, saying it will continue asserting what it calls its legitimate rights in disputed waters, through patrols, statements, and diplomacy. China's foreign ministry keeps repeating the same message. The South China Sea belongs within its territorial claims. And there's another layer. Beijing has accused the Philippines of stirring up tension by bringing in outside partners for joint patrols and military exercises. That's a sensitive issue for China, especially when it comes to foreign military cooperation in the region. China's military has also pointed to its own recent naval and air patrols, calling them necessary for national defense. So while the words fly in press briefings, ships and aircraft are still moving across those waters. The Philippines, meanwhile, is walking a careful line. Manila has long-standing defense ties with the United States, built on mutual agreements and shared security interests. Philippine officials have made it clear they're not standing alone. They see cooperation with allies as a way to defend international law and protect freedom of navigation. But here's the balancing act. Even while strengthening defense partnerships, Philippine leaders say they want dialogue with Beijing. They say tensions should be managed through diplomacy, not just shows of force. Manila has also pointed out that the two countries work together in other areas like trade, investment, and climate issues. Leaders don't want the maritime dispute to poison everything else. And this isn't just about one shoal. The standoff over Scarborough Shoal is part of a much bigger puzzle. The South China Sea is one of the busiest shipping lanes on the planet. It's rich in fish, energy resources, and strategic routes. And multiple countries have claims there, including Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, Taiwan, and the Philippines. At the heart of this fight is international law. Many countries point to the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, as the rulebook for who owns what at sea. And in 2016, a tribunal in The Hague ruled in favor of the Philippines, saying China's sweeping claims didn't line up with global law. Manila still leans on that decision. China rejects it completely, and that's the problem. There's no strong enforcement arm, no global police force at sea. So instead of courtrooms, this dispute plays out through patrol ships, surveillance flights, press conferences, and diplomatic pressure. More than a decade later, analysts say the ruling didn't end the conflict, it reshaped it. Now it's a long-term geopolitical chess match. Both sides are investing more in Coast Guard fleets, maritime surveillance, and diplomatic outreach. Each one wants international support. Each one wants to shape the narrative. In Manila, leaders across different branches of government are united on one point. No country should unilaterally change the status quo in contested waters. They say disputes must be handled peacefully and within the law. In Beijing, the message is just as firm, but very different. Chinese officials say their sovereignty claims in the South China Sea are non-negotiable. They often cite historical maps and records to back that up. And when it comes to things like proposed marine reserves, China says these measures are meant to protect the environment for everyone. But many countries aren't convinced, and they're watching closely. Across Southeast Asia, other nations with their own disputes with China are paying attention to how the Philippines handles this standoff. They see both the power and the limits of international law. Even countries far beyond the region, including in Europe, have weighed in. Western governments regularly call for freedom of navigation and urge all sides to avoid actions that could escalate tensions. But beyond the strategy and statements, there's something more personal. Local communities in the Philippines feel this directly. Fisher folk groups and coastal families talk not just about income, but about identity. Places like Scarborough Shoal aren't just coordinates on a map. They're part of a shared heritage. And then there's the environment itself. Coral reefs are under stress. Fish stocks are declining. Climate change, pollution, and overfishing are already pushing marine ecosystems to the brink. Some observers argue that real environmental protection would require cooperation, not unilateral moves that spark more political tension. So in the end, this isn't just a legal battle. It's not just a military standoff. It's about law, power, livelihood, history, and the future of one of the world's most critical waterways. Tensions at sea don't just stay at sea. Journalists and regional experts say small incidents, a ship cutting too close, a standoff during patrols, arguments over fishing grounds can quickly spiral into full-blown diplomatic fights. One wrong move, one miscalculation, and things escalate fast. Both Manila and Beijing say they want to avoid conflict. Publicly, they talk about managing differences responsibly, but trust is thin. And while they talk about peace, both sides are strengthening their positions, legally, diplomatically, and on the water. There's been talk for years about creating a binding code of conduct for the South China Sea. The negotiations involve the Association of Southeast Asian Nations and China. Progress? Slow. Critics say without real enforcement, any agreement could struggle to prevent future flashpoints. Philippine officials say they support a code, but only if it's meaningful and consistent with international law. Then came China's proposed nature reserve near Scarborough Shoal, and suddenly the issue was back in the spotlight. For Manila, it's a test. How far is China willing to go? For Beijing, it's about maintaining presence and influence in one of the world's most strategic waterways, even as other governments push back. As of early 2026, neither side is backing down. The Philippines keeps pointing to international law and peaceful negotiation. China keeps insisting its historic claims are valid and its actions are legal and necessary. Meanwhile, the rest of the world is watching. Governments far beyond the region are urging restraint, because what happens in the South China Sea doesn't stay there. It affects global trade routes, regional security, and millions of livelihoods. So this isn't just a dispute over Scarborough Shoal, it's a signal. How Manila and Beijing handle this standoff could shape the balance of cooperation or competition across the Indo-Pacific for years to come. And in a region this strategic, every move matters.